You know how the old saying goes, it's not the size of the wave, it's the motion of the ocean.
Jake, it's the wrong video, brother.
What do you mean?
It's the wrong video.
Oh, shit, sorry. You know how the old saying goes, if you can't dodge it, ram it. And speaking of rams, today we're talking all about wheel and tire fitment for your Ram 1500. Consider this our contribution to only Rams, if you will. This guide is specifically for the 4th generation, the generation that's kind of been replaced by the 5th gen, but for some reason they produced a classic version at the same time. I guess Ram and Blizzard are the same company. This guide will apply to the Ram 1500 from 2010 to 2018 and the 1500 Classic from 19 to 24. The specs of your wheels and tires will change drastically depending on what direction you want to go with your truck. In other words, what will the suspension setup be? Is it going to be stock, lifted, maybe lowered? Are you building a drag truck? You can find everything within this platform, so we included as much as possible to help you make your decision. First, we're going to go over the basic fitment info for all Ram trucks. If you're already a Dodge guru, feel free to skip ahead right to the fitment examples, but don't skip it, we need the watch hours. But be sure to double check the basic fitment before you order your wheels and tires. If you're wondering what I'm referring to, we write all this down in a guide, which you can find down in the description below. Really quickly, be sure to like the video, hit the subscribe button, check out our weekly wheel winner giveaway, watch our live streams, and all the other YouTube stuff. So first and foremost, we're going to go over some basic fitment info. The lug pattern on these trucks is a 5 on 5.5. The lug nut thread is a 9/16 18 or an M14-15 for the facelift, 77.8 millimeter center bore, and 120 foot-pounds of torque for the lugs. A detail that may or may not be important is that trucks made after 2013, the facelift trucks, use a different lug nut, the M14 by 1.5 instead of 9/16. It doesn't affect fitment, but make sure you get your lug nuts right so you can actually put your wheels and tires on your truck. Other than this, everything is pretty standard for a Dodge truck. The 5 on 5.5 bolt pattern isn't the most widely supported, but we still have thousands of wheel options for you to choose from, or run an adapter. As far as aftermarket wheel sizes go, in stock form, your Ram is going to come on anything from a 17-inch all the way up to a factory 22-inch Laramie wheel. 20 inch is the preference for aftermarket wheel diameter. However, this might change depending on how the truck will be used. Also, if it's a 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, that's going to influence your choice. 17s are the smallest wheel you can run, 16s just won't fit, period, full stop, end of story, so your aftermarket wheels are probably going to be in the factory range of 17 to 22, unless you want to jack your truck up to the moon and throw on some 30s. Tire width is more important than wheel width, all things considered. The factory wheels run between 7 to 9 inch, and anything between an 8.5 and 10 is going to work well for aftermarket wheels on most trucks. As far as offset goes, factory wheels are in the low positives. The preference for aftermarket wheels will be 0 or lower to give yourself a nice look. -20 to 0 offset's the most common. If you want the most aggressive look, you could throw on fender flares and go even lower with the offset. Now, as far as tire sizing goes, while 4-wheel drive trucks can run larger tires than their half-ton counterpart, the largest factory tires are a hair under 33 inch, 285/70/17 to be exact, about 32.7 inches. Already larger than you can fit on a Silverado with stock suspension. So, how big can you actually go on a Ram 1500? Well, 33 to 34 is going to fit just about all trucks without any issues. Some can go even larger, but this varies. The factory suspension can be a little different from rig to rig, and depending on the age of your truck, it might sag or this or that or the other thing. Just buy a leveling kit, you know you want one anyway. 2-wheel drive trucks come with tires around 31 inches. Tires in the 32 to 33 range are going to fit these without trimming. Now, lowered trucks, on the other hand, generally use a tire size similar to the factory 31s. If you stay on stock wheels and just want to upgrade your tires, the widest tire you can fit is typically a 285. This is going to go for both 2-wheel and 4-wheel drive models. Now, with aftermarket wheels, you can definitely get away with a wire tire without rubbing the suspension. A lowered negative offset wheel can allow you to run tires as wide as 305 or even 315. That's a big boy. However, keep in mind that lower offset wheels, while giving room for suspension arms and clearance, do increase the chance of rubbing the inner fender at full lock as well as the outer fender. Now, bear in mind, this is a very basic overview of fitment for the Ram 1500, so let's see what it looks like in the real world on some trucks. First up, what can you do on stock suspension? Well, if you just want to leave your suspension as is, the way it came from the factory, good news. You can still run some decent sized tires. Stock tire size for this Hemi-equipped 4x4 is the 275/60/20. This truck's now fitted with a 285/65, otherwise it's bone stock. For reference, this setup is about a 34.5-inch tire, which is a pretty big tire showing just how large you can go on factory suspension. Now, different trucks may or may not need extra work to fit this size. If you want to exercise caution, you could try a slightly smaller 275/60/20 or even just go with some 33 12.5s. Instead, this size will fit a 4-wheel drive 4th gen without any issue. Not much more to say about a stock wheel and tire setup on stock suspension. You could always combine aftermarket wheels with the factory ride height, but most prefer to at least run a leveling kit if they're going to make the investment in wheels and tires anyway. We'll talk about leveling kits next. Want to run 35s? Well, simply leveling your truck makes it possible. There's two ways to achieve this, either leveling spacers or Bilstein adjustable front struts. Bilsteins are the preferred method, and before you go to the comments and say, I used this other strut and it worked, Bilsteins offer a number of advantages. Improved ride quality, the front's going to be a little stiffer, but it's going to be more predictable, and you can adjust the spring perch to allow for different ride height settings without having to buy additional parts. Also, these have a limited amount of downward travel to prevent control arms from overextending, leading to premature bushing failure, which is something common on these trucks. Upward suspension travels unaffected, giving you that off-road travel that you need. If you're looking for Bilstein suspension, you can grab it from our website. The only real benefit to running a spacer leveling kit is the cost. They're super affordable, around $100. If you don't plan on putting your truck in situations where the suspension will be fully compressed and decompressed, aka off-roading, spacers are going to work perfectly fine for your mall crawler. We carry rugged and ready lift products as far as spacer lift goes, so pick out whichever brand you like the best. They're basically the same, they're like blocks of aluminum, and pick those up from our website. If you want to properly lift your truck, you're going to need to raise the front and the rear. That's right, no Carolina squat here. The rear is normally done with a spacer. Combine this with either Bilsteins or another form of front suspension, depending on how deep your pockets go. We're going to start looking at leveled trucks and then take a look at a few lifted ones. So with aftermarket wheels, you can get a nice wide stance without having to use spacers. In this case, the owner of this 2019 1500 Classic opted for a very low offset, -24. We've previously talked about how poke on a truck should be relative to the lift. More lift equals more poke equals wider wheels to keep all the proportions correct. This truck only has a 2-inch rugged leveling kit. Arguably there was too much poke for the ride height, that's why the owner threw on some fender flares later to keep everything symmetrical with the body. Looks better with the flares, right? Another reason for lower offset wheels is to run those wide 305 tires. The tire height is only around a 33.2-inch tire and should be doable without the leveling, right? Well, having low offset wheels and wide tires decreases tire shoulder to fender clearance, so the leveling kit was likely a necessity to mitigate any rubbing issues. Now, it doesn't take much to fit 35s on a Ram 1500 as I alluded to earlier. This 2014 is running a 2-inch leveling kit from Rough Country. This gives enough clearance for the 35 by 12.5 KO2s. We see 17-inch tires used on this truck, indicating that it's probably going to see some off-road trails. Normally, wheels are sized down for rigs that are going to be used off-roading and upsized for rigs that are more show or street use. As I said earlier, 17s are the smallest you can run on these trucks. 12.5 wide tires are equivalent to 315, so 0 offset wheels or lower are absolutely necessary. Now, a lot of people run 17s or 20s, but let's not forget there are sizes in between. This truck's sitting on 18 by 9 -12s from Mayhem. With these specs, there's a good 1.5 to 2 inches of poke. And without the lift, it might look a little bit goofy, but as is, the poke makes it look pretty tough. Flares would look cool in this application too, but it looks fine without them. This is another truck with Bilsteins, the only difference here being the addition of Eibach Pro springs. The springs alone provide lift, so when the two are combined, you get 3 inches of lift from the middle setting of the Bilstein shocks. The rear is lifted 1.25 inches with spacers to match. Now, not surprisingly, considering the lift, there's 0 rubbing with this setup. The only caveat being that the spare tire doesn't fit in the factory location, but this is a pretty normal complication of modifying your truck, and just run a chase rack anyway because it looks cooler, and we know you're not putting shit in your bed anyway. Did those 35s look a little too stock for you? Now, normally in these fitment guides, we're talking about what you need to do to fit 35s, but with the Ram, 35s are easy peasy lemon squeezy, so instead the real topic is 37s. From a Raptor owner, you Ram guys, I'm jealous. A 6-inch lift is going to be more than enough in just about any case on any truck, but specifically on the Rams, it's only going to take a little bit of modification, such as pulling back the fender liners and possibly doing a little bit of front bumper trimming. This is pretty standard truck stuff, so I don't know what you'd expect other than this. Some have made 37s work 4 to 5 inches of lift, but it comes at the cost of more clearance. That means you, your boys, a couple beers, and the angle grinder are going to be putting in overtime. The only catch with 37s is that your truck is going to feel like it's in mud constantly unless you change the gearing. A 456 final drive is going to retain a good amount of torque in miles per hour. Now, the truck pictured combines 6 inches of suspension lift with 3 inches of body lift. With this much lift, you won't need any cutting or grinding. but it's 9 inches of lift. As we can see, this truck has been tested on the dunes and has 0 rubbing, showing just how capable this platform really is. Going the other direction here, if you're looking to lower your 1500, it's especially popular among owners of two-wheel drive regular cab short bed trucks. I wonder why. In a nutshell, the idea is to go for the RT look, a low-slung sport truck running 22s with fairly thin tires, or 18s to go drag people. If you got a 4x4 1500, that doesn't mean you can't lower it, but keep in mind you might need to size your tires up an inch or so to make it look right. Well, how's it done? The most basic option is reverse leveling with lowering springs, or dropping the rear about 2 inches to match the front. It's lower, but it's not super slammed. This is definitely the most cost-effective option and retains some usability of your truck, as you only need a set of springs. Now, the more popular, albeit more expensive option is a 2-4 drop kit, bringing the front down 2 inches and the rear down 4 inches. Beltec is the go-to brand for this kit, as it is for many trucks, and there's not really any reason to talk about any others. You could go crazy with a 4.6 or 5.7, but this requires extensive modification to the suspension, as the geometry is dramatically changed. Although the look is pretty awesome, so it's a solid trade-off. Now here's what a four-wheel drive 1500 looks like with a 2-4 drop. The wheels are OE Wheels Hellcat reps, staying pretty on brand. Normally these would be the wrong PCD 50115 and only in 20-inch sizing. However, OE Wheels stepped up to produce this awesome design and specs that are tailor-made for a sport truck. 22 by 10 plus 25 looks fantastic on here, and you can grab them from the link down in the description. Now, like I said earlier, tires on a lowered 4x4 should be a little larger. In this case, the owner is running 305/45/22, which fill out the fenders nicely. With this setup, there are no issues with rubbing, which is great, to be honest. One reason 2-4 drop kits are so popular is because of the ease of installation and the compatibility of many wheel and tire setups on them. If you're looking to just lower your truck and make it easy, that's what you need. Here's the same 2-4 drop on a two-wheel drive Ram 1500 Express. Now these wheels are a lower offset, giving a little bit more poke than the last one, but with a two-wheel drive, a smaller tire was needed. These are some Toyo Proxies, and they run about 1 inch smaller than the 305/45s on the 4x4 we just looked at. Less sidewall means this truck didn't require any modification to the fenders to make these work. The exact model of wheel on this one is discontinued, but we have a ton of wheel options from Vision or really any brand that are going to look awesome on your truck. Again, click the link down in the description. Are you noticing a theme here? We sell wheels and tires. You can buy them in the description. Hopefully, this video helped you learn how to fit some badass wheels and tires on your Ram without the need for an angle grinder or a Sawzall. Compared with their Chevy and Ford counterparts, these trucks can run some very large wheel and tire setups without needing to do irreversible cutting or trimming. If you're coming here from the car world, they're like the 350Z of trucks. So, the next time you're having a heated internet debate about which truck is the best, keep that in your back pocket so you can flex on the Ford and Chevy guys and say, well, at least I didn't have to cut my truck in half to fit 35s. You can do a little bit of everything with this platform. Slam it, lift it, or just keep it OEM plus with some upgraded tires. Whatever your style is, if you have a modified Ram or any other vehicle, car, truck, SUV, slingshot, we don't really care, be sure to upload it to our gallery. It's a great place to flex your ride and get inspiration from others to dial in the perfect wheel and tire setup. As always, don't screw up your fitment, use our vehicle gallery, check out our fitment guides, browse hundreds of cars in our vehicle gallery, get inspired, and get it right the first time. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, check out our other videos, and I'll see you in the next one.